It's back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. It is the unofficial 40 here from Soonerscoop.com, brought to you by MidFirstBank.com. Go to MidFirst.com/U40, MidFirst.com/U40, and sign up for the OU Rewards credit card. You get the big OU logo right on your credit card. It's the official partner of the University of Oklahoma. MidFirst Bank, want to welcome them on as our presenting sponsor. Well, it has been a slow week a little bit, except for one thing, and that is Lincoln Riley kind of went liar. I don't know. He lied to us.
He backtracked a little from the teleconference to the media luncheon,
and
at least.
I looked up. I was trying to get the audio from the teleconference, and I don't know if it's posted this morning. It wasn't all day yesterday. They usually post it the same day. I don't know if that had to do with the Mike Gundy thing that happened, and they're just like, I don't know.
Or because they're pointless.
I mean, that was already out there, wasn't it?
Well,
the audio.
I wanted to get the audio of Lincoln
right.
lying.
But I don't know why they wouldn't post it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Some intern probably didn't put it up. But anyway,
no, it's just a pathetically run.
So I mean, like, the teleconference is stupid. We all know this. Like, it's just a bunch of guys that never do anything and sit, at a radio station and just ask questions. And rarely does anything of note ever come out of that. Yesterday, two things came out of note came out. One was Lincoln. And I don't know how the question was asked, which is the part. That's why I told you guys when it first came out, like, he could be playing semantics. Because if the question was simply, is Trejan Bridges a defensive back now? Or did you move Trejan Bridges to defensive back? That would be. But he basically said we haven't had any discussions, and he said something else, and that's the end of that. Like, oh yeah, that's really going to be the end of that. Like, I think we all know that that's not going to be the end of that.
The board is pretty funny when I think someone put that up and they go, all right, that'll do it. The discussion on the corner is done.
And I don't know how Josh felt. I know Eddie was, his sirens were going off. And
I was flabbergasted.
And I should have. It was just morning and all hell was breaking loose, and you guys were getting to the press conference, and I was trying to decide if I was going to be able to get there or not. And I was just like, look, I feel good that he's, I've had it from enough people that something is going on. So I don't know what Lincoln is doing or what I understand what he's doing, Josh. He's trying to make this not hurt him in recruiting is what his biggest concern.
Oh, I'm sure. And that's something that, I think everybody can follow certain people on Twitter that realize there's maybe a few hurt feelings out there.
Family members.
There's some of that going on.
And former guest of the pod, by the way. Hey, Jack, how you doing?
Of course. Yeah. And he is such a recruiting-focused head coach. I'm sure that was one of his first considerations is how is this going to look. But when you draw – I didn't really have a problem with what he said in the teleconference until he was like, that's the end of that. That's not the end. Because it's happening. Like, that eventually, even if it's like 5 years from now, they're going to be like, yeah, you remember when Lincoln told everybody he wasn't working there? Yeah, he worked there that whole week. Like, somebody's going to come out and verify it on the record. Like, it's going to happen. So why even draw that line in the sand? Like, it's not a big deal. It's
that'll
just like,
be the end of that.
Yeah, you just kind of painted a target on yourself.
We're good.
Well, the funny thing about the teleconference is just a little over an hour and a half later, he's having his weekly press conference, which you knew that wasn't going to be the end. And but the venerable Al Ashback being the first to jump into the fray about Trejan Bridges.
Have you been looking at different things in the secondary, like Trejan Bridges moving over to safety? Have you doing anything differently than other people at the nickel?
Well, we wouldn't. If we ever move somebody, I got asked about this morning too. If we ever move somebody to a permanent position, I'm going to tell you guys we have not done that with Trejan or anybody else. We're always experimenting with different pieces on our team at different places, but that's not something I'd be willing to talk here in front of everybody, including all our future opponents.
So let me stop that. And that opened the door back up, and we're like, okay, we're not crazy. We're not wrong. Like, obviously, he's playing some defensive back.
Yeah, and it's just the way it's being phrased.
And then Eddie, the press conference is over, and he's got to move he goes out to his car because you went and worked, and then you went to move your car.
Yeah, we stay up there after the press conference gets over, and we work up there or whatever, and then
And shoot your video.
Yeah, sometimes do that, and then I had to go put some stuff in my trunk, and I walk
Some
over
junk.
by the what?
Junk.
Just dad joke.
Yes, that was a dad joke.
Okay, olds. But I go over there, and the football team's walking from the practice field where they practice over at the track and field. I don't know, what's that called?
Jacobs.
Stadium Center?
John Jacobs
John Jacobs.
Field.
Okay, I'm
They-
not going to call it by its name. If you want to be a track athlete, that's on you. But I go over
If you
there.
want to exercise, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's on you. But I go over there, and then I notice that Trejan Bridges is wearing a white jersey,
Which the defense wears.
which the defense wears, and he's walking over into the indoor with Trey Brown. Like, I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. And then that kind of led into post-practice with Alex Grinch on Monday night.
Which that's the whole thing. Like, okay, Mondays are also defense, so what's the gamut? God, why is it every time the pod starts, I forget all of my damn
Are you talking about run the gamut?
run the gamut. Thank you. We're running the gamut on Trejan Bridges because now we're going to talk to Alex Grinch. And, Alex Grinch is kind of no nonsense. You wonder, like, is Lincoln really going to waste his time going to Alex Grinch saying, okay, here's our plan of attack when it comes to dealing with Trejan Bridges? No, Alex Grinch is no nonsense. He's just going to come in and tell you what's going on, and that's what he did Monday afternoon.
Well, that's just something that Trajan talked to Coach Riley about, and we may get in the recruiting war, recruiting a bunch of guys off of offense if he allows us to. But no, that was something that was brought up by him, and something that take a look at and kind of go from there. And so verdict's still out, and obviously he's a quality player, quality kid. And he'll ultimately be a high-level player at Oklahoma in one capacity or another.
Does that tell you that you're kind of creating a culture on that side of the ball that people want to be a part of, though?
Oh, it'd be tough to make that declaration again. I mean, you love to think that guys feel like there's quality being created. I think also speaks to opportunity, and so in any event, I think there's several guys that, and again, some of which that find themselves, whether it's scout team early in the year or young guys in our program that signed on to be defensive players. There's opportunities to be had out there, and so it's a very high standard, and we got to continue to work to create it and match it, and obviously continue to raise the bar as well.
Was he still with you today?
What's that?
Bridges still with
Yeah,
you?
he got some work with us today. Yeah.
So, then
I guess this is my question. Why would, going back to the Riley thing, if Trejan Bridges went to them and asked them to be moved, how would that be
How does
bad
that hurt
for
recruiting?
Yes.
That's been
Like,
my
doesn't it look
issue, too.
worse that you're lying now? And now that, like, wouldn't it look worse if he said, well, he asked us to move and we're just not going to do that?
Yeah, I mean, it's...
You know what I mean? Like, how
it
I don't
should have been
understand how that-
handled differently. It should have been said, look, he came to us.
I think it just
and
comes down
asked
to
if he could play
Riley
defense.
is paranoid about everything, and he didn't want to give out any intel, if whatever you want to call it, and it's ridiculous.
We've said this before in a lot of
It's
ways.
stupid.
He is more paranoid than Bob was in a lot of ways.
Because if the real story was Grinch and Riley went to Trajan and said, hey, we need you to move, that could be used in recruiting. But if Bridges is coming to them...
If anything, it makes Trejan Bridges look amazing that he's so selfless that he could bite a bullet and say, all right, well, I'll just play defense for you.
I was thinking about this.
I want to help the team. What a bastard. How's that a bad thing?
Horrible kids we have in this program.
like, how is that a bad thing?
Well,
I think that it should be celebrated.
Like when we just talk about all the team first guys in terms of offense, there's only one ball. You need all these team first guys. This was your perfect example to bring out.
It's overblown. It's Lincoln being a little too protective of things that don't need to be protected. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad look. It's paranoia, and it's
when the cat's out of the bag, why bother? Like, I mean, it's clear everybody knew. Like, I mean, this wasn't one of those things that like, oh, a couple of people heard some whistle. Like, everybody knew something had happened. Like, it was everywhere. And my other thing is, did Grinch and Riley not talk? Because Grinch was so matter of fact, like, yeah, he was out there today with us. Like, I mean, it was so different from where Riley's like, yeah, we're considering some things after his second chance at the answer.
I think it's just
Grinch's first run is like, yep, he's out there. He's working with us.
It's kind of like just a look inside the coach's office that they pay no attention to what's happening outside. Grinch is obviously not scrolling through to see what Lincoln says on Monday afternoon.
Yeah.
Noon.
Well, I kind of said the same thing with Bill.
But he should. He
Beedenbow.
should take a look at the take 3.
Yeah, with the Bill Beedenbow, Marquise Hayes. You remember, like, Beedenbow said, I expect him to play. He's been practicing. Lincoln comes back the next day and says, oh, I'm still not sure. It's just Beedenbow and Grinch just don't have that head coach paranoia mindset. They're just going to tell you what's going on within their group.
This is the first major, I think, red flag. I think it's a sign of divide in the coach's room. I think Riley's already looking to be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, I think.
10-11 and never report coming at you.
Yep.
Dana Holgerson set to be the next head coach.
That'd be awesome. I'd move back down to Norman.
So, yeah, I mean, all that plays out. And then, you talk about, people being on the same page and not on the same page. Now, when we talk to the players, like, some of them were guarded. Others were not.
They didn't know what they could say.
Yeah. I just do what I always did, which I said, Alex Grinch just told us that Trajan's a safety. Tell us about it. Like,
oh, okay. That's
what I did to Patrick Fields. I mind bleeped him. And he was really open and had some good things to say. And Delarian Turner-Yell also did. I mean, but here's Patrick Fields kind of discussing it.
Coach Grinch had told us about Trejan kind of trying some defense. What does that mean to you as a player to see a guy that is willing to, maybe make a move to work out, maybe help your defense?
I think it just, speaks volumes to, the type of program we have. Guys, just want to see our program succeed, and they're willing to sacrifice, whatever it takes for the team. And then that quote right there, mental toughness is, doing the right thing for your team, even when everything isn't perfect for you. And I think that kind of like speaks volumes to that quote right there. But he's done a phenomenal job. The first game against Houston, he came down, made a big tackle inside the 20-yard line on kickoff. So you see the glimpses and the ability of him to play defense and be aggressive.
If it works out or whatever, does that give you a lot of respect for a guy?
Definitely, and I mean he's already a guy that's well respected throughout the team because he's a phenomenal player offensively. But just seeing him be able to come over to the defensive side and transition so fast and be willing to learn, adopt a new defense and all of that, it just makes you respect him that much more and speaks volumes to the type of player he is and the type of ability he has.
And Josh, I know you've done a lot of the breakdowns, each and every week. I don't know how much you put into special teams, but that's one thing that everybody kind of pointed out to is that he's a very aggressive player on special teams. He makes some really good tackles. That very first game they played Houston, he made a big special teams play in that game. And that's kind of given those defensive guys, like, it's given him some cred, some street cred with a lot of those guys.
Yeah, and I won't pretend that in the breakdowns we spent a lot of time on special teams, but I can say going back to games, camps, watching Trajan over the last couple of years, this is a guy that you don't often say a wide receiver has some edge to him, but Trajan's that guy. Like, I mean, you can tell, and he's a nice kid off the field. I mean, he's always good to deal with, always real, just easy to get along with. But on the field, that was a guy that looked like, man, he's one harsh word from maybe getting into something here. Like, I mean, he just runs hot. And it's something where you're like, okay, like, not many guys would I say, yeah, they could. It's just such a different mentality from offense to defense. But he's a guy that you're like, oh, okay, I could get there. Like, he has the mindset for it. Now, like I said, people are like, oh, well, I had people asking me in board chat yesterday, is he going to start this weekend? Whoa, tap the brakes. Like, I mean,
I had the same question this morning.
Yeah, this is just not a position he's played a lot of. I mean, I know we got some video and we put it out on Twitter of him having that big interception when you guys saw him last year. I mean, it's not that the physical skills aren't there. He can be a good player, but this isn't a position he's been working at for the last 3 years. Like, he hasn't been working with DB trainers. He's been working with margin hooks and those guys and all the receiver trainers.
Yeah, and I mean that was something, people were asking me. I even got a message from, people at OU like, "Hey, how would he have rated as how was he looked at as a defensive back coming out of high school?" I was like, nobody was talking about him as a defensive back. Nobody was rating him. He was going to camps and as a receiver, like he would come to rivals camps. He would just be a receiver. It's not like he was some, like people have this this perception of him now like he was some great two-way player in high school. Now he played defense some, but I mean he was also
more
under
of
center.
like,
he was the Wildcat quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean
He
was
had to do everything.
I mean he was doing everything
It was
on
more
offense,
like, all right,
and he
the ball's-
kind of went on defense.
The ball's
some.
inside the 30. Get out there, Trajan.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
he
Like-
wasn't a defensive starter, I would say. I would
'cause
consider
I don't
him
think
a
he
starter.
was. No,
And
Because like
he
you guys
wasn't when we
said,
saw him.
He worked at receiver. The night I saw him, he played some running back. He played some Wildcat quarterback. He was their return man. I mean, defense was the one chance he had to actually get a breath.
Yeah.
So, like, unless they had to have him on the field, they usually didn't. The game I saw, which was a huge rain debacle, so, I mean, that you have to kind of gauge it a little bit. He didn't play. I don't think he played any defense the whole night. I mean, I could be wrong, but I definitely don't remember seeing him on defense. Now, obviously, you guys did, so it's a little different from game to game. But, I mean, this is not a guy like some of these players where there is a real debate. Maybe like Jaquaylin Crawford's a good example. Texas wanted Jaquaylin Crawford to play DB. I mean, that's where they really liked him better at. Oklahoma liked him at receiver, and that was a big part of why he chose Oklahoma. Now, obviously, he's made the switch too. So with Bridges, he was a receiver. There was no conversation. There was no doubt. Like, everybody that was recruiting him wanted him as a receiver because there was nothing to say defensive back was his future because there just wasn't much evidence of it.
By the way, just got an alert from the SeatGeek app saying that ticket prices have dropped 15% for Oklahoma Texas Tech this weekend. Want to remind you guys, the SeatGeek app, go download it on your phone. If you need tickets for a game, it's a great app. It lets you see tickets from all over the place. I mean, a lot of these ticket places are huge, and they don't really care about the customer. They have annoying sites. SeatGeek has it all. It's an app. It's a website. They've been a great sponsor of Sooner Scoop over the years, and they've got millions of live event tickets in a price match guarantee. So I mean, they're trying to do it and prove that they're doing it a better way. But you can search for sports, live music, comedy, whatever you need a live ticket, a live event ticket for, all in one place. And they've also built the fastest way to find tickets. So stop searching for the perfect seat and start enjoying it. Also, they've got over 50,000 five-star reviews. It's, as I said, just a better process. They rate each deal on a scale of 1 to 10. Eddie and I have both used it a lot. He got, what'd you get, Cubs tickets, I think, about a month ago?
It was a great process. A waste of money, though, seeing that bullshit.
They are not on Eddie's favorite things to do right now. Watch Cubs.
Well, it's over.
It's over. It's over
done.
this week.
I don't want to talk about it.
It's done.
Okay.
Move on.
I used it on Sunday to go see the Astros. Watched George Springer hit 3 home runs.
Did you really?
Three home
we were
runs,
at that
first
game.
3 at-bats, right?
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, led off the game and then hit, I think in the second, they almost batted around in the first, came back up in the second, hit another one, in the fourth hit one. And then you could tell, like, from then on, like, he was just trying to get that fourth, and it was just, he's nubbing it off the end. But, I mean, it was a great game, play at the plate, big diving catch out in left field. It's easily the best Astros game I had a chance to see.
They might be pretty good.
It was pretty quick for you to get the tickets. Easy.
Oh, yeah. Super. I mean, I've got kids, man. I don't have time to mess with all that. I mean, it's nice. You just scan and you go. It's beautiful.
All right. And also, SeatGeek will give you $10 off your first SeatGeek purchase. All you need to do is use our promo code. That's the promo code SCOOP. So download the SeatGeek app. Use the promo code SCOOP. You get $10 off your first purchase. That's SCOOP for $10 off your first purchase. That's SeatGeek. Thanks for being a great sponsor of the podcast. All right, so we've talked about Trejan Bridges. One guy, it was the bye week. They gave the players the weekend off. And we talked about it going in, like, what else could they do at safety? Alex Grinch was asked flat out, do you feel like you're developing any other guys that you can trust to back up Patrick Fields and Delarian Turner-Yell? He basically said no.
No.
It was a pretty short answer. But one guy that we, maybe we didn't talk a whole lot about that might be in the mix there is maybe Jeremiah Cradell.
I certainly think it's interesting. And just as far as the way that they have gone about, I guess, the last, 12 days since they played?
By the
whatever.
way, Bob gave me a FU nod sideways, like, nope, not happening.
I don't know.
You don't feel like Credell is a possibility?
I think anybody's a possibility.
Anybody's a possibility. Like, I would go.
Except for Robert Barnes.
And he's the one that gets brought up the most.
Well, I think it's just only natural to start thinking about guys that have played before down there. And, it's fascinating to me to see the process that they've gone through just as far as, the mental circles that fans and even us have gone through just as far as looking for guys that are going to be possibilities at safety. And if they're not getting it done Monday through Thursday, Alex Grinch is not going to play them.
Yeah, that's the one thing.
If you want to know why insert name isn't playing, it's because he's a shitty practice player.
Yeah. And
there's no other way to put it, right?
And really, it's more like you have to practice well for 2 days because he talks about Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah.
Like, get it done on Monday, Tuesday. You're going to play on Saturday. You may not start, but you're going to get thrown in the game at some point.
I guess a question, it'd be a dumb question to ask, but what constitutes getting it done on Monday, Tuesday at practice? Like, is it not busting coverages? Is it...
Alex Grinch said it has to be more than just lining up right. You have to go out and play. I mean,
yeah.
And that, I think we played that clip last week maybe, but
Grinch is also big on getting it done when the lights come on too, isn't he?
Yeah, well, that's what he said, though. I mean, that's what's ridiculous about this whole thing is he's saying, we want to play more people. We want to play you. Right. Give us a reason to play you.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't sound like he's asking for you to move heaven and earth on Monday and Tuesday. He's just asking you not to be a dumbass, not to be a screw-up. Like, and he will give you a shot. Like he said, we want to make the mistake of playing too many people instead of not playing enough. So, like, he's rolling out the red carpet for people to play, and no one's able to just walk up and do it. It's crazy.
It's not a good situation. Everything else on the defensive side of the ball seems so settled as far as you have rotations. You're getting Kenneth Mann back this week on the defensive line. You have Jaden Davis now, kind of that, what I would call that third corner as far as rotation. It's that safety position and even the nickelback position that they have to get figured out before, I say Big 12 play starts, but what quarterbacks are worrying you right now? It's obviously it's OSU and Texas, but outside of that, I think that there's some question marks about the rest of the league.
I think Spencer Sanders could be a problem.
No, I think that's could be argued as right now, knowing what Texas has as far as injury wise. It could be 1A, 1B
screwed
as far as OU's toughest games. Cotton Bowl and then up in Stillwater.
You really worry about the burnout for Fields and Turner Yell. If they have to keep playing 20 to 30 more snaps than everybody else.
I mean, they're almost at 60 every game right now.
Mentally, too, because that's when they're going to start to make mistakes, and then you don't know if that's going to snowball because they're always on the field. They're just fatigued mentally and physically compared to everybody else.
And here's the problem. They're playing 54 snaps a game and Buki in blowouts.
Right.
Like, what happens when you have to play 4 quarters? I mean, are you going to have to play 80 snaps? I mean, it could get ridiculous if they don't find some depth.
Do you wonder if, say they like the Bridges experiment. They start liking him at, nickel is, I think what everybody's hearing. Do you experiment with Sylvie or Buki at safety? Like maybe one of those guys can give us a little depth there and mix it up?
Boy, it didn't take long for Grinch to give up on Sylvie.
Yeah.
He didn't play very well when he was in.
When you see the results of him
playing. He was a
playing,
great story. Him and Jordan Parker were great preseason stories. He kind of
gave up on them equally.
But they're not. When they're out there, they're the ones that are slipping or falling down and cover. Like, they're the ones having the bust when they're in limited amount of times.
Sylvie just looked like he was running in quicksand while everybody else was full speed. It just wasn't. It didn't look good.
Which in a way is, I guess a little startling considering they really haven't been tested that much.
Exactly.
The safeties,
and that's why you had
they haven't
had
many opportunities to up.
Yeah, that's why you had to look to like someone like Trejan Bridges because if you couldn't get it done against South Dakota, then you're not going to be able to get it done against conference teams.
We're going to find out a lot about the defense. And, the other thing that I found kind of comical this morning is, like, someone asked me, do you think Jaden Davis is going to get more playing time? And I'm like, that's not the point. That's never the point. Like, he's playing a lot right now. Like, just because someone does good doesn't mean that they have to play all the snaps. Like, you have to eventually get that through your head.
That's
like,
part of what they're building.
Yeah,
they're building
that's
a rotation.
That's why they're finding some success, and why they're going to have success in the Big 12 ultimately is because they have guys that they can rotate and they can all play at a higher level. Like, it's just that mindset that people, the casual fan can't get. Like, if they see something good, they want that player to play every snap all the time.
Just put them in the 11. Put them in the starting 11. They don't want an 11. They want 22.
We don't need backups. They wouldn't be backups if they were better.
Hey, you guys, you created this monster. You put Trejan Bridges, that one clip of him making an interception, and now that's all he's going to do every time the ball is thrown. Why don't they put Trejan out there? He'd intercept it and return it every time.
Well, I'll just throw this out there. Every time I've been to a Trejan Bridges game, he's intercepted a pass.
Oh, here we go.
That's
See,
a fact. That's a fact.
Have you seen him play defense?
You know what, Eddie?
You've been to games this year.
I can back you up on that
defense.
because every Trejan Bridges game I've been to, he's had an interception.
That's interesting. 100%.
I don't know how Bob feels.
I can't. I saw him as a junior, and he
Okay.
against Marcel Brooks. He leveled Brooks. He was
I
gave him the
I
business.
did see Trejan Bridges take a guy's head and cram it into the ground.
I like that.
While he was on offense. So he is a very aggressive person.
I like that. He needs to hang out with Calum Sutherland, maybe get arrested. That'd give him a little bit more dog, too.
Get a PI.
Get a PI at 4:45 in the morning.
By the way, as detailed as Lincoln Riley was on Calum Sutherland's suspension or his discipline, did anyone really think he's going to miss a game?
No.
Like, it was literally like, oh, he's going to pay dearly. Like, he made it out like they were going to
he's not kicking that
strap
first
him,
extra point.
have him drawn and quartered.
That first extra point, that is not going to be him.
You get the first extra point. Well, Gabe Burkage kicks off, so they're not going to take that away from him.
I think he'll just probably do a little bit of extra running. I mean, PI in a college campus is one of those things. It seems like it happens.
I've said
Serious
this,
shit, Eddie.
I've said this all week.
Like, it's a lot better than a DUI, obviously. You can't make fun of a DUI. You can make fun of a PI. He endeared himself more to me by getting arrested.
I've been saying this since it happened. There are a lot of PIs that can happen in a football program, and public intox might be the most tolerable of them all.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. That's a good take. I like that.
Pass interference is a lot worse.
A lot worse than a public intox.
We should put that on a T-shirt. Sell it through the...
At least it wasn't a pass interference.
Soonerscoop.com. Yeah, I think...
Parnell Motley, have a drink on me.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It's part of the Speed D.
But it's Tech this week. It's Big 12 getting underway, and I think the other thing that we talked about, and I know Bob is writing about right now, you've played 3 games. Is the other shoe going to drop? Like, this
is what Grinch was brought here for.
Yeah.
This stretch of 9 games. Figure out how to do pace of play, defense against these type of teams. Make it work. You've tried to build the depth. Now,
everybody felt like, going into conference play last year, the defense was going to be better, and it all fell apart.
Exactly.
I think that's kind of the thing that sucks here is we're in what I would call, I guess, the end of the first quarter of the season in a way. They're not going to... They go out and play well on Saturday against Texas Tech. People are going to say, well, they had the backup quarterback. And they're all facts. They're all facts. I'm not saying it's wrong, but you're not going to be able to get a good idea of what this team really is until you get down to Dallas, I think.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of a wait-and-see mode. Now, there's a lot of
You can say that about Jalen Hurts, too.
Yep. Absolutely. And it kind of sucks, but in a way, it's like they still got to build over these next 2 weeks. You got to beat Tech. Josh, we can talk about what you saw under the hood as far as Texas Tech in the Arizona game, but we were working on stuff at the Rose Bowl after the UCLA game, and I had that on my laptop, and I mean, I thought Tech was terrible. I thought they were absolutely embarrassing. That might have had something to do with the fact that I maybe had some monetary interest in Texas Tech that night, but I thought they were awful.
Yeah, it's just amazing to me that in a year's time, even when before Bowman got hurt, they didn't look like themselves offensively, and it really felt like the new offensive staff was trying to recreate the wheel, and there was no real reason to do it. You know, when they would speed up and they were just kind of playing at tempo, all of a sudden they started moving the ball, and they're going up the field. And then the next drive, they just slow it right back down and do the check with me stuff. And it was immediate, like 3 and out, or, we got 1 first down and then we punted. It was all very abrupt when they got that way. Defensively, I think they're much better. I think Jordan Brooks at middle linebacker is as good as any linebacker in the conference. I mean, he's a really, really good player, probably going to get some time on Sundays. So it's interesting because it's just a very different Tech team than we're used to, but I don't see any way without Bowman they're going to stop Oklahoma enough or score enough points to keep up with Oklahoma, even with an improved defense.
That might be
not even if they bring in Maverick.
You bring in Maverick McIver, and you already have 14 points. You should start.
You're trying to cross me up here, Kerry, because we all know of my love affair with Top Gun. It's you're trying to make me say something I don't want to say.
I mean, Jet Duffy had success against the Sooners last year.
Yeah.
So it would be not a huge sign, but if they could actually stop Duffy this year.
Did he beat TCU?
Yes.
Yes.
He came in.
It was a horribly low.
It was a Thursday night game, and
terrible.
it was it was disgusting, and Tech ended up winning. But he does have the he likes to turn the ball over, it seems.
Yeah.
Jet Duffy, and I would think that this is a game that if Oklahoma isn't able to force a couple turnovers, you walk away pretty disappointed. Like, I think this is a game that if you really are a defense that has taken steps against a backup quarterback, you have to go out there and put together a really good performance.
You know what? It would be, I think the story, the fairy tale story for this defense would be like if Patrick Fields had like 2 picks.
Sure.
Because he was
get those safeties
close
involved a little bit
against Houston, and it really, not that he's regressed, but
Trey Brown's always told me he has terrible hands.
That Patrick Fields has terrible hands?
Yes.
Okay, so Delarian Turner yelled in 2 picks.
Go 1-1. How about that?
Maybe like Delarian Turner Yell tries to catch it, slips through his hands, and Pat Fields just kind of grabs it out of the air.
And you want Turner Yell to force
That's a win in itself, having 2 safeties around the ball at one time.
Or a really bad throw by Jet Duffy.
That could happen. I'm not saying it won't.
Outside of that, anything else that really stood out to you offensively, Josh, about Tech? Because, I mean, they are, Lincoln said it the other day, they're basically running, a similar air raid system to what they were running last year.
Yeah, like, to me, the 2 things that I noticed are different. The tempo, the pace is just much slower. And the other thing is, I don't understand how an offensive line that returns so much looks so much worse. I mean, Arizona was getting pressure with 3-man fronts, like not bringing blitzes, not doing anything exotic. They were bringing 3, dropping 8, and Bowman's moving around in the pocket. Like, I mean, he should have had all day behind an offensive line that returned so much and so many starts. Jack Anderson still looks like an outstanding player for them, was a highly recruited recruit. Highly rated recruit. So, he's a nice piece in there at guard. But other than that, I see an offensive line that's going to have trouble with Oklahoma's athletes when they had trouble with Arizona, who had been awful defensively coming into that game.
I mean, if you have offers from Alabama, Oklahoma, USC, you could be a highly rated recruit. A highly recruited recruit.
Sure.
And then you can have shittily recruited recruits. I mean, guys with offers from like San Diego State and New Mexico.
If you're not going to go to the NFL, though, I mean, there's worse places to be recruited to than San Diego State. I mean, just go enjoy that
lifestyle. You just can't live there after you graduate.
Yes,
can't afford it.
Yes, you're going to be broke. That's exactly right.
I don't know if Rocky Long's the type of guy I'd want to play for.
You've blown my mind that you even know that Rocky Long is the coach, because I didn't.
I could name you every Division I coach in a Power 5 conference. Really? Maybe. I'm sure there's a couple that
Did you
Oregon State
take some Adderall before the show started?
I did, but not for that reason. No, I'm just kidding. God, no, that's one of the coaches. And it's Jonathan something, isn't it? The only reason I know that is because OSU played him in the first week.
Who's Hawaii's coach?
They're not Power 5, though.
Yeah, they're not Power 5, but he's gosh, I forget.
This is
I'm over 2 now. But I remember thinking when we were talking about the Oregon State head coach, it was like, I can't believe Louisville?
Yeah.
Satterfield from Appalachian State. Scott Satterfield.
Wow.
That's a good one.
I remember thinking, like, there's no way that's Oregon State's head coach. Like, I had cut some audio of him when he was talking about Oklahoma State in the first week, and I was like, there's no way this is the Oregon State's coach. I think it's like Jonathan Anderson, something.
Jonathan Smith.
Smith. Yeah.
Used to play
Talk about a
quarterback
nobody.
for them.
John Smith. Can you get any more blame?
John L. Smith. He was an all-time great.
Hell of a backup, huh, Bobby?
Yeah, he didn't do so well at Arkansas.
I don't think anybody does well at Arkansas. You can't
It's
convince
not-
me
is
that
it
Arkansas
possible?
is a
Lost
good
to
football
San Jose State
program.
at home.
Mike Leach would be so much better.
When
than
Arkansas
anybody
weeps,
else they
I
brought in
weep,
there.
okay?
I mean, like, they've done it to themselves, though. I mean, hiring Bilma, being one of those schools like, oh, we don't hire somebody like Mike Leach.
Well,
That's their problem.
I was listening to Daniel Jeremiah's pod today, and they were talking to Joel Klatt, and he goes, what's going to be hilarious is when the Alabama-LSU game is 52-49, and all the SEC fans are like, this is the greatest game we've ever watched. Like, and it's true because those two defenses are not what we're used to seeing from those two schools.
No.
And their offenses can light it up, and it's going to be funny when that's in the 40s.
CeeDee Lamb said as much yesterday. Talking about
He did.
just how when other teams score a bunch of points, it's a great game, and everybody's really enthusiastic about it. But if it happened in the if the UCLA Washington State game would have happened in the Big 12, people would have lost their shit. There's just no defense. But everybody else watched it and said, "Oh, what a hell of a comeback! What a fun game that was."
Well, it has changed, though, too, because now that Alabama has caught up and now that LSU has caught up with everybody, like,
It's okay.
It was a thing where they were jealous. I mean, it's like they had these in the Big Ten. I mean, my God, how much longer is Mark D'Antonio going to survive?
How long is Pat Fitzgerald going to?
Pat Fitzgerald needs.
You know why Pat Fitzgerald's in such a shitty mood all the time? It's because his offense is ranked 121st in the country. That's awful. I tried to watch some of that Northwestern Michigan State game last Saturday. There was other options that weren't college football that I would have watched.
The thing is, you could really hide in the Big Ten right now. I mean, you can. You can be a very average team and get away with it.
See Michigan.
Yeah.
Every time they play a good team, they get their ass throttled.
I mean, like, Ohio State looks like a historical offense right now, but it's just because they're playing in what has become one of the
they've played terrible teams. I mean, they're non-conference schedule.
But I'm saying they'll probably kill Nebraska this weekend, and everybody will be like, "Oh, look at this offense!"
Like, I want Nebraska to make that a game, but
I don't see it happening.
I just don't see it happening.
Nebraska's terrible.
I mean, Fields will have to go up there and they'll have to turn the ball over 3 or 4 times for that to be a game, I would think.
I think I picked like 49-21 or something. I mean, they're going to house Nebraska.
Oh, I bet they score 50 I bet like 56 minimum. I don't know what the over is in that. I'd probably bet it.
I mean,
probably could
Ohio State's
put your money
played
where
4 games. Ohio State's played 4 games. 2 of them are from their own state, and 1 they had to travel to the always tough Bloomington, Indiana.
Oh, yeah. That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
it's just. It's not. Don't get me wrong. Oklahoma hadn't played but at least they can say we put UCLA on the schedule a long time ago and didn't realize they were going to be a complete joke when we got there.
67 is the over/under in Lincoln this weekend.
Over, way over.
56.
Ohio
14.
State
You're
might
good.
almost score that themselves.
That'd be a bad look for the Black Shirts, in my opinion. If they give up
What a hot
67.
Black shirt.
That's a scorching take from Eddie Radosevich. Well, you mentioned CeeDee Lamb, and I think one thing moving forward with this OU offense is, I mean, it's great that Charleston Rambo has, had some nice games and stuff, but they need to have someone that's at least enough of a threat to draw off some of this double coverage off CeeDee Lamb. And maybe we'll see that more now that conference play starts. But like Texas, they did the same thing to Tylan Wallace, and Oklahoma State didn't really come up with an answer for that in the passing game. They just ran Chuba Hubbard a lot more and then ran Spencer Sanders a lot more. And it's weird because OU and OSU kind of have the same problems offensively. They've got a great wide receiver that nobody can stop one-on-one, yet they've got a running quarterback that kind of takes the ball out of the air a little bit and takes those opportunities away. So it's like, what do you want to be? And I think Lincoln Riley has to decide at some point, do we want to be a team that has a quarterback that runs so much our running backs aren't really a big part of the game plan? Because that's kind of what's happening.
I'm somewhere in between. I think that a little bit has just been what Riley has said. It hasn't been planned, and he's just tucked the ball. And then another part of it is I just don't think they've really forced the issue, have they? Or needed to force the issue, maybe.
Yeah, I'm just sort of ready for Trey Sermon, Kennedy Brooks, Grant Calcaterra. Like, these guys are just getting warmed up. This was their preseason.
They came out healthy.
And now
that's one thing you can say.
They're ready to actually do what they're supposed to do.
Kerry, you make it kind of seem like, though, that this is a couple big weeks for CeeDee Lamb. Because he hasn't been necessarily the guy that I thought he was going to be. And I don't know, that's not a bad thing because he's only played a couple. I mean, in reality, he really hasn't played a full game yet. And they haven't really needed to go to CeeDee Lamb. But
you
at the
tell
same
me,
time,
how many one-on-one down the field opportunities has he had? 4?
I can only think of two.
He had the one back shoulder throw
that was off.
Yeah, it was a poor throw by Hurts.
Mm-hmm. No, the one he caught when he went down on his knees and flipped it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Who was that against? Was that against
I think
South
that was
Dakota?
South Dakota.
Yeah, that was South Dakota.
But and he had the bust on the touchdown down the middle against Houston.
Well, he
had the bust against UCLA on the slant go. But, I mean, just sending him down the field and throwing it up for him to come down with, like, that's happened like twice in 3 games.
CeeDee's talked about it. I mean, this is a little bit of a new world for him, isn't it? Just as far as he always had, last year, obviously, he had Marquise Brown. He didn't really technically have him in the Orange Bowl, and I think that was a positive that he was able to perform so well. But at the same time, and I'm not saying he can't do it either, but, need to probably show a little bit. If you want to be the number 1 wide receiver taken in the NFL draft here in, 7-8 months?
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of go time. You only got 9 more opportunities that are guaranteed.
Judy's making a lot of plays. I mean, if you're talking, and I mean, for CeeDee Lamb, he wants to win the Biletnikoff. He wants to be the first pick taken in the NFL draft. Like, his numbers right now don't even put him in the discussion for All-American, much less Biletnikoff.
I mean, you have guys. Tylan Wallace is bringing balls down. He's covered by one of the best best safeties in the Big 12.
Mm-hmm. But he only had 1 or 2 catches, I think.
Yeah, how many did he end up having against Texas?
Not much, because they had one to Landon Wolf and they had one to the Johnson guy. And
they used Dylan Stoner a lot.
Yeah.
And I think a little bit of that is maybe I just had such high expectations for CeeDee, and I don't think I would change that, but it's go time.
But
like,
there's no doubt
play,
he's underperformed,
it's start to go.
But it's not his fault.
It's
not at all.
Because you look at the passing attempts, too.
Sure,
I mean, if Jalen Hurts is running it, the passing attempts
you're
aren't
more
there.
to 25 pass attempts a game now.
Yeah, that's not like 30 to 40. You're losing chances.
And you also, in Baker Mayfield, Josh, you had, and Kyler Murray, you had guys that were more drop it in the bucket type throwers. Jalen Hurts is not really that guy. His ball is more on a line. That it's not he's not really putting it up there for you to grab it. He's throwing a pass, he's throwing darts kind of out there.
Yeah, I think like the drop it in a bucket's a good way to put it. Like as to where he's throwing to a point. Like I'm throwing to a point on the field rather than like I'm going to drop it in over there. And I know it seems like a fine little detail, but I agree. And I think if there's anything you wanted to say about Jalen Hurts, and I think everybody knows for the first 2 weeks I had some questions, and I thought against UCLA he showed some progress, but he's not a great deep ball thrower. I don't think you can really argue to the contrary so far. Now, maybe he'll change, or maybe him and the receivers will, they're still working some things out. It could be a lot of things, but so far we haven't seen a lot of elite throws down the field.
Well, and that's up to Lincoln Riley. And he said, look, if I have a star player and he's not getting the ball enough, I will do things to, make sure that happens more. And he wants, just like he's freaked out about the Trejan Bridges thing, he wants to feature CeeDee Lamb. He wants CeeDee Lamb to be the best receiver in the country. He wants that to be, a kind of a recruiting pitch that he can put out there to other people.
Competition was terrible, but Lamb could have had 300 yards against South Dakota if he would have actually stayed in the game.
Yeah. And that's the other part. They get up big and you don't really need them. And
yeah, I think that's why, for the most part, it's a little bit of an incomplete review as far as what CeeDee Lamb has brought to the offense this year, just because I don't know if we know. Honestly, I don't know if we know a whole lot about the offense as a whole. I mean, they just haven't been. They haven't been tested.
That's true. And what is Lincoln Riley?
I mean, these guys are averaging almost a first down a play.
Yeah.
You look at the numbers that they put in the stat book for this week, and, I mean, it's just ridiculous, the historical rate that they would be on.
That's why, LSU and Alabama and all these SEC teams hated on the Big 12 defense for so long.
They're averaging almost a full yard and a half more a play than anybody else in the country.
Yeah. But we want to see more running game. We want to see more CeeDee Lamb. I guess I'm guilty, just like the Jaden Davis thing. Like, we're going to see more of him.
No, but I think it's all fair, and that's why I think over the next 2 weeks it's going to be frustrating in a way, because anything good that happens, it's going to be, this was expected. Anything bad, it's going to be, yeah, the ceiling's falling and everybody, is basically screwed.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Josh.
No, it's like the opposite world of the defense. The defense, when something goes wrong, it's like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah.
It's one drive. Tap the brakes. Not everything has to be perfect. But on the offense, if it's not pristine at all times, then, well, what's going on here? It's shaky. Or even if it is, it's like, well, that's the expectation. So there's no way on offense to win right now. I mean, until they do it against Texas, and even with Texas, they've got that LSU game kind of, so people are still going to be like, well, we still don't know, but it's like that's just what OU has to live with right now.
It's funny that, like, any time that, especially at the home games, because you can tell a lot more because of the fans and stuff, but any time that they have to punt,
it's like, what?
It's like they punt, 3 times in a month period. It's like, oh God, what's wrong with this offense? Like, people have become so conditioned to Oklahoma scoring every time they get the football that it's almost become like they've really failed if they haven't scored. And God forbid they go 3 and out on a series like that. That is just even more strange.
Devastating.
Yeah, it's devastating. It is devastating.
Okay, I want to remind you guys that the Unofficial 40 is now brought to you by MidFirst Bank. And MidFirst Bank is the exclusive provider for the OU credit card. So if you guys want to be able to wave your OU pride every time you make a purchase at the register, pull out that OU credit card, you need to go to midfirst.com/U40. That's midfirst.com/U40. And you can sign up. It's a limited time offer. You can apply today, right now, for the OU Rewards credit card. You earn 15,000 bonus points by spending $1,000 in the first 90 days from your account open. And you say, oh, it's probably a huge rate. No, it's 0% for the first year APR for 12 months. So 0% 12 months. Get that card and don't worry about the interest. And then, of course, that does change after the first year, but you get a year. So register for a chance to win the ultimate game day experience. So every purchase that you make on your OU Rewards credit card earns you a chance to win the ultimate game day experience with VIP tickets to a football or basketball game, plus $500 in a MidFirst debit card. You can redeem your rewards points for cash, cashback, gift cards, merchandise, and even travel. So again, midfirst.com/U40. That's midfirst.com/U40. Go to that website, and thanks to MidFirst Bank for being a huge presenting sponsor of the Unofficial 40 podcast this season. All right, recruiting-wise, all kinds of stuff going on. I know, defensively, Bob, you asked Alex Grinch this week kind of.
I didn't get to.
Not Alex Grinch. You asked Lincoln Riley during the press conference kind of what this has done, this start has done for them, defensive recruiting-wise. And he had he said it's been very positive. Josh, let me, bring you in here. What do you think that this defensive start and just Alex Grinch's arrival at Oklahoma, now that you're a month into it, now that recruits can kind of see it, what kind of effect is this having on the recruiting trail?
Well, it's interesting because a lot of the guys I talked to, it's been guys that have seen it in person. The Alfred Collinses, obviously this weekend we'll get to kind of get Antonio Doyle, Josh Eaton, some of those impressions. And so far, all the guys have really liked it. I mean, you think about it, guys, a lot of the same things that fans react to are the same things these players are watching. Like the defensive line is going to get upfield. The defense is going to try to create turnovers. They want to be ultra aggressive. They're going to blitz some. It's all the things that you talk to recruits about, and they're like, man, I don't want to play zone coverage with 4 guys coming all day. That's just very vanilla, and it's not something that excites a player. These are all things. The defensive linemen, you get to shine. The linebackers, you're going to blitz some. You're going to chase plays out in the flat. You're going to do a lot of different things that get to show a big skill set to the NFL. The DBs, we're going to put you on island sometimes. We're going to trust you to make plays. And I think that is something that is going to appeal to a lot of guys. Now, the reality is Oklahoma's still getting, they're still having some problems at safety, like we've talked about already in the pod. So there is not that, Oklahoma's dominant defensively. I mean, it's not, that easy sell of, well, look, we're just killing everybody. There's not that to sell. But there is a style of defense where the coaches don't have to say, well, this is what, Coach Grinch from Ohio State did at Washington State 2 years ago. No, they get to say, here's what our defense looks like. This is the guy. You're going to be our Ronnie Perkins. You're going to be our Jalen Redmond. You're going to be our Parnell Motley. You can sell these guys and the way they're playing. And if I'm Oklahoma and Roy Manning in particular, I'm sending every Pro Football Focus thing that Parnell Motley comes up in to every corner recruit in the country.
Jaden Davis, too.
Yeah, Dante Manning would just be getting, his email would just be spam with that constantly.
Is this a sneaky weekend? You've got a nice mix of Mikey Henderson, Devon Graham coming, and then you mentioned Eaton and Doyle. Those would be 2 big-time, legitimate defensive targets that maybe the Sooners can make up a lot of ground with this weekend.
Absolutely. Eaton is a guy that I think Oklahoma made a much bigger impression on him during his first visit than he expected. And that's who the decision basically came down to, was Texas and Oklahoma. Now, he is good friends with Bryson Washington, so I think Bryson will be in his ear all week. I mean, Bryson is not expected to be there, but he'll be talking to him and messaging him, and those guys know each other. I think they're on the same 7-on-7 team, if I'm not mistaken. It bounces around a lot in Houston, so I'm not going to pretend I know that for sure. But they're very good friends, and I was around them both at the Rivals 5-Star Challenge, and they kind of just hung out and were around each other. So I think that could be a place where I don't think anything happens this weekend, but if you said, 3 months down the road, Josh Eaton flips, this is where it starts. And this is how you can start to build that, and then Oklahoma needs to obviously go and beat Texas. There's a lot of things between here and there, but Oklahoma can start to make that move. With Antonio Doyle, we haven't talked about it yet, but
Jonathan Perkins.
There was always a question of, does OU have enough spots to make it work? Well, with the transfer of Jonathan Perkins, it seems like that question gets answered. Now Oklahoma can go after him, truly pursue him, not have to worry. And what's interesting about that is and they have a legitimate chance at Antonio Doyle. His relationship with his head coach, Carl Reed, and Oklahoma's relationship with Carl Reed gives Oklahoma a big head start. That's a guy that really likes Oklahoma due to his relationship with Calvin Thibodeau, dating back to the Ronnie Perkins recruitment. So there's a lot of connection there, a lot of kind of intermingled things. And I like where OU is with him. Now, Texas A&M's a real contender. He likes the SEC a lot, so there's going to be a lot of things to consider. But when you think about the best blend of football and location to home, Oklahoma is his best option. I mean, unless he's dead set on going to Missouri, which I think is almost completely out of the race from some of the people I've talked to. The best proximity to his home of elite programs is Oklahoma, and it's funny that that's the case because he's so far from Oklahoma, but that's kind of the way it's worked out. So, like I said, I think Oklahoma can make a big run, and people forget when he took his official visit to Norman, he admitted to me that he thought about committing almost the whole time he was there. I mean, he really loved that visit. So for Oklahoma to be able to lay out the red carpet for him, Brian Odom to really be able to focus on him, it wouldn't shock me if Oklahoma could really kind of jump to the forefront.
You know, it's interesting because I think there's not one person in this program with Alex Grinch coming in, to me, whose star has risen as much as Calvin Thibodeau's. I mean, you look at what they're doing on the defensive line, not just like, Ronnie Perkins was a good player and could do good things, but Marcus Stripling's giving them something. But on the other side, guys like Jalen Redmond and LaRon Stokes, I mean, that's a really good duo. And then Neville Gallimore is playing
and then
lights out.
Mann back.
They're going to get Kenneth Mann back. I mean, you really have to give it up to Calvin Thibodeau for what he's now, we can say, building at Oklahoma on the defensive line.
Think of where that defensive line was as far as depth, overall talent 2 years ago.
Yep.
I mean, there was not a lot of guys there that you said, okay, that's an NFL guy, and there definitely wasn't much depth. I mean, there was, you might have a good first unit you could run out there, but I mean, they really had to take Dylan Fa'amatu just because they needed someone who could come in and play, like, just be a body here. We need somebody who can take the reps even at practice. And now, I mean, like I said, Kenneth Mann's I don't know if you want to call him a 2-year starter, but I mean, basically. And
he's a team
I'm not sure he
captain last year.
Yeah, I'm not sure he gets into the starting rotation. Like, I mean, he'll obviously be into the rotation, but I don't know that he's a starter right when he walks back, and that tells you how things have changed in 2 years, and a lot of it's recruiting, and a lot of it is Calvin Thibodeau has guys that he has recruited that are now in a scheme that suits them really well.
And I would say number 2 behind him is probably Brian Odom. I mean, just how impressed I've been with him. And look, there's still more work to do. We still have to see Kenneth Murray and how he progresses throughout the Big 12 slate. And now that it's going to be open, he's going to have to be doing more in space. Deshaun White's had some flashes here and there, but I mean, to get Ryan Jones to a position where he can make plays, I mean, at a different linebacker spot, like, to me, that's almost like a small miracle.
More bold over, me by Parnell Motley or Carey by Ryan Jones?
That's a tough one.
Because
I don't know how bold over I am. I just said that
Jones,
it's a minor miracle because he's actually he intercepted the pass.
Hands up against Texas.
Yes.
That is always going to stand out.
Probably because he was being coached by morons.
It's always going to stand out, though.
And it also makes you realize
I wouldn't know where to line up either if Tim Kish and Mike Stoops were my coaches.
But like also, what's weird is we see Caleb Kelly like almost every day. Like he's doing some kind of internship, like he's got a class or something with student media, so we see him in the interview room all the time. But he's very engaged in the program. Like he's got to be licking his chops like, shit, these guys look good out in this defense. Like, what am I going to look like? I'm a 5-star.
Somebody asked, I think it was last week, about Caleb Kelly and how close he was, and I said it's probably about 2 weeks away from really starting to kind of dig into that one as far as
when's he going to come back?
When's he coming back? Is there even a plan in place for him to come back? Because I mean, I haven't heard anything as far as being behind in rehab or anything like that.
He looks good.
I certainly think he plans to come back. I mean, I don't think he's going to be holding the camera for the student media, although it seems like they need 7 people to hold one goddamn camera.
Wow. I think I counted yesterday. There were 9 people representing student media at practice yesterday.
I mean, I went through the same program when I was in school. I appreciated the education that I got.
I never saw you at practice.
But, it's because we didn't really do a whole lot of that. But, I mean, we basically laid the foundation for what they're doing. But
no, there's 9
basically
people.
A godfather of Gaylord College. I have my name in the up on the walls.
8 of them that don't.
It's no big deal.
Don't ask questions.
I'm sorry, say that again.
9 people and probably 8 of them that don't ask questions.
But yeah, that's my point. It's like besides your 15 family members, nobody's going to watch it. Get out of the way.
I don't think anybody cares about this discussion.
No,
That's
it's
all
more
right.
of a
Except us.
it's more of a bridge for me to be able to go over.
A sky bridge, if you will.
Yeah, it should be.
Eddie pulled off one of the greatest internet hoaxes. I don't know. It's not really a hoax.
Was it? Yeah.
Internet, I would say, not burn or what'd you call that? Just troll jobs.
Yeah, I guess
of
troll
all
job.
time.
Sure.
So congratulations. I give it up
Thank
to
you.
you.
Thank you.
You want to tell everybody exactly what it was that you did?
Well, we were sitting around Monday after the press conference, and the Derek King news came out as far as his intentions to redshirt in the Houston program. And
By the way, real quick, like, is anybody like, there's so many people I work with, like in radio, that are like appalled at this. Like, they can't believe that this is where we're going as a society. Like, I'm just like, I'm really not appalled. I don't really have this big of a problem with it. Like, he's not ripping apart the fabric of society as we know it. Like, it's just a kid. And look, they may have a shit year, and he may end up transferring, just going, wow, this thing's in disarray. I better go somewhere else. Like, it's up to Dana Holgerson to keep that thing together.
If they were 3-1, this might be a different story.
Well,
They're
that's,
1-3.
yeah, they're 1-3.
I think that's my problem with the whole thing is the fact that if they were 3-1, he wouldn't be doing this. I think that's kind of and I'm caught in between because I usually am somebody that supports the player. Like, I think it's bullshit that a coach can, automatically leave and be eligible to coach wherever, and a player has to sit out. I would support the player in that facet, but at the same time, it is kind of bullshit that, he definitely has quit. If I was a 6-year senior for Houston, and this is my last go around to ever play football, I'm going
a fifth-year senior.
Or a 5th-year senior. I'm going into the business world after this is over. Like, I would be a little pissed off that my quarterback has basically quit on the team.
Yeah.
But he's taking advantage of the rule.
Yeah,
he's taking advantage.
You can't blame people that are upset about it. At the same time, I can't blame him for doing this. I do think when you hear Dana Holgerson talk, there's a little bit of, am I going to get screwed over here? Like, he's wondering, like, is this on the up and up?
Yeah, I know that there's a
All
hot
it takes
theory
is
out there that
one decision by him to transfer, and this whole nobility thing that we're all selling goes right out the window.
There's like this hot theory out there that Holgerson went to Derek King and was like, hey, sit out, come back next year, we'll try this thing over again.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely don't think that happened. Like, the last thing Holgerson wants to do is run off a 1-11 this year.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when you got crazy Fertitta running around.
Oh, I could listen to the theory that he was going to transfer, and Fertitta said, well, give you $20,000 to stay around.
You think 20 would do it?
I don't know.
Probably 50 at least.
Yeah, living in Houston probably is 50.
So anyway, but no, I'm sorry to get you off track. I just wanted to get everybody's thoughts on that real quick.
So he makes the announcement. I think, what was it, the Joseph Duarte put it out there on Monday, and I just simply tweeted that a source had told me that he was spotted in Norman on September 1st. And it got picked up by a couple aggregators, which I think people know my disdain for that type of what is it? I guess I'm not even gonna call it. Yeah, like I'm not even gonna call it journalism. It's just rewriting people's work. But they put it out there that I confirmed that, and it tickled me to death. That people
Someone
are so
made
stupid.
a headline out of it.
People are so stupid that they would believe that
the headline was something
he
along
took
the
a
lines
visit
of
to Oklahoma on September 1st. Like, look at their schedule.
You should have, I can't believe this went 3 weeks without being reported, but September 1st, he was here.
I think you said reportedly visited Oklahoma.
And then I put it in all
1st.
caps, read into that what you will. People are so stupid.
But that was pretty good. But like the typical joke, like right after it happened, was Lincoln Riley's next quarterback. So it was like already out there in people's minds. Like,
oh, and those were the other hot takes. Was, well, what's wrong with Spencer Rattler? Is he already disappointed? Is he already a bust? God, people, come on.
But in talking about that, now that OU will be playing its 4th game, we'll see if anything happens with any of their guys.
Yeah, and I mean,
especially over the next 2 weeks when I think there will be opportunities, I would think, in the 4th quarter for them to play guys that will be sitting on that 4th game.
And you wonder, I mean, I don't think there's any reason at all to redshirt somebody like Theo Wees. I just don't.
I think they should move him to the other safety spot.
But, guys like Stacey Wilkins, EJ and Doma Ogar, just people, I mean.
Has Wilkins played at all?
They've both played the last 2 games.
Yeah. Okay.
And
I saw Doma Ogar out there.
They've been the right and left tackle with Felix and Wilkins, and then EJ right next to Stacey. They've played the last 2 games.
And then, guys like, it seems pretty clear that Wete is going to redshirt, but like Guebu, I mean, which I think he needs a red shirt. I mean, I know he's a great talent and everything, but just size-wise, I'd like to see him spend a year in the weight room before he burns a year of eligibility. But he's another guy that, I mean, boy, Calvin can look really good.
Well, and I thought that was really interesting in the press conference where Lincoln was talking about that. Like, guys, guys that are playing or that are part of our rotation, we can't burn them in the weight room. We can't go crazy and try to bulk them up and get them bigger and stronger. But once they're redshirting and we know it, then we can really push them to get those gains for, the year, 18 months before they really get on the field and are really a factor. I thought, and it's something like I knew, but I thought it was kind of interesting to hear him kind of say, like I think he was talking about Charleston Rambo. I think that was kind of the conversation he was having. I thought that was an interesting point, and it really applies to, a guy like a Guebu, like you're talking about, Kerry.
Now, we've kind of glossed over it, but Jonathan Perkins reportedly in the transfer portal. I don't think any of us, I think we all kind of had the same reaction when that happens, like.
Capitalized K?
Oh, well.
Okay.
Okay.
Just, never looked like it was going to fit.
I didn't love him in the old scheme, and this one it was no. I mean, length and speed are your 2 things. Those are probably the 2 things Jonathan Perkins does not have. So, like, I don't get that being a fit. Now, I will say, and, I know we give a lot of the fans a hard time sometimes. We do our bad voice impressions and all that sort of thing. But the thing I do want to give it up to, the 2 guys that the fans were almost unanimous about, Derek Green and Jonathan Perkins. First two guys that are gone. Yep. I mean, and neither one lasted a season. And
I'd say Perkins, that we had a pretty good role in, especially the Derek Green. It's not like you really hid your evaluation of his potential.
And the interesting part is Perkins, you can chalk up to an old staff. Green, that was a Ruffin McNeil guy. I don't know what that says, but it's not great.
Well, even Ruffin's his guys are doing well. Benito, John Michael Terry.
I like Benito a lot.
I mean, what's happening here?
Well, and that's been kind of nice is that, we haven't had to deal with all the Ruffin stuff. I mean, it was before the season started, you still had a lot of angst about the defense out there. There was a lot of stuff on the boards about when they get rid of Ruffin. And I understand that sort of. But I mean, the whole thing about the defense playing well, nobody's really all upset about Ruffin being on the staff anymore.
No, because the defense is playing well. I think it's still one of those things too that people just almost have a PTSD experience when they think about Mike Stoops, because then that leads into the nepotism and all that kind of stuff. But I still think that Ruffin McNeil serves some kind of purpose in this program. I guess that'd be the easiest way to say
He's serving the purpose that he was brought here for, which is to be kind of the big Papa Bear.
Yeah. It's okay. You need that.
And
sometimes you need that.
Parents like him.
Everybody can't be crazy. Everybody can't be a Brian Odom.
Just keep him away from Derek Green's DNA clones.
Yeah. I mean, the problem is you've got a staff of 10 recruiting as 9. I mean, that's
a problem.
But I mean, you're not Oklahoma's having to cover extra ground each guy to make up the difference. I mean, I'm not saying Ruffin doesn't recruit at all, but it's far more minimal than the rest of the staff. And it's I mean, I'm sure traveling for him is much harder than a guy like Brian Odom or Calvin, young guys that are, just more able to go climb on a plane and fly for, 3 straight days.
And I think we should end the Ruff McNeil conversation.
Do you think
there.
a perfect assistant coach would be? Would a perfect assistant coach be able to fly himself? Like, is that going to be the new
like a pilot's license?
Yeah, it's like I can coach defense, but I can also fly myself, and I also have my own
those
plane.
Damn Uber planes going, or helicopters, or whatever.
That wouldn't be bad.
Be amazing. God, I feel like our expenses from Eddie Carey would become astronomical if there were Uber helicopters.
I've never been
Eddie's
in a
like,
helicopter. I don't think.
I've been in one.
You can imagine this. I got sick on one. Yeah, imagine that.
Shocking.
I'm
upset,
shocked
Bob.
that you even got in one.
We did over to Grand Canyon. Brittany absolutely loved it. I was like almost throwing up the entire time.
Bob, by the way, has to sit in the front seat of every car or he'll get car sick.
Factual.
Bob, you're like a damn poodle.
He really is.
Can we put you in a carrying case when we travel?
No, we did ours on our honeymoon, and this guy, it's just
showing up to a high
nice.
school game. Yeah, we're here to
Make sure that Bob
Cover your
didn't
kid.
freeze to death on every flight.
Have you guys seen the high school videos where the players are like on the field and they're acting like they're dogs and their buddies are holding them back?
Yeah.
Like that could be Bob. Like we're letting him out of the cage. Like he's a wild one.
I think they did that.
No,
I
that
think
wouldn't
Buki
be Bob.
did that before the
Bob would
Orange
be
Bowl.
Bob would. Yeah, I think Buki did do that. You're right.
Yes.
Bob would be more like the dog that doesn't want to come out.
I don't want to go
Yeah.
out. I got to make sure I'm healthy first. Those flights can just take it out of me. It's so embarrassing, but I'm like done.
We're gonna get you jacked up on steroids. If you own a steroid company, contact Carrie. We need
I gotta
steroid sponsors.
I'll send
No,
you
I'd
to
like
the low
real
key.
steroids.
I bet they can hook you up.
The for real.
I don't know. I mean, I inject that stuff into my ass. How much more real does it need to get?
You're not walking around like a bodybuilder though. Like I want to. I want real. Like
How do you know what's under this layer of fat?
well,
Oh, are we trying to say he can't hang?
yeah, that's true.
Uh-oh.
I've already been fat shamed twice this year, or twice by Heisman winners.
Do you think Jalen Hurts would let you work out with him if he knew you were on the juice?
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's the Alabama in him.
Tell him you're on the juice next time and see what he says.
Show him
That's
a
amazing.
needle.
You want a
We need
needle?
Eddie-
You want a needle
we
to
need to
take?
get-
Hey man,
Eddie needs to go through one cycle, like not work out, not doing like we don't want to show Jalen anything, but he's gone through a whole cycle and then he gets in the weight room and Eddie's just a monster, just a pure steroid.
I think you have to work
It's
out
like
though, don't you?
It's like the refrigerator. Isn't that the new thing in minor leagues where they have a really fast fat guy?
In which one?
That's like the freeze. It's like the opposite of the freeze. But he's a fat guy.
Oh, and like Major League. I thought you were talking about the movie.
I think in minor leagues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some team
No,
came
they have
up
they
with
have the Braves game.
fridge.
I think. Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I saw that.
And
That
he
one
starts
dude was
running and he acts
crazy.
like he's out of breath.
Yeah, and then he turns it on.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
There's got to be like that would be pretty good. Like get a bunch of former track people that got fat, but they're still really fast. Like that could be a league.
Well, it's like that one. It's like that Vine of the kid. He was like a huge kid, and he just blows people off the track.
Yeah.
I forgot where that was. Like a little Terrio looking guy.
Maybe that would be the new defensive lineman. Just get fat former track athletes.
I've always said I don't know why NHL teams just don't put a sumo wrestler in between the pipes.
Yeah.
Get somebody big enough to just take up the entire space.
They'd probably stick to the ice.
I mean, I guess that shows my ignorance of the sport of hockey, but
Yeah, it does.
it's always
That's
it's
all right.
always been my.
That's okay.
Like
You don't-
all
you don't-
of
funny.
these
You don't
all of
love
the
that
goalies
wall-
are always like real tiny guys.
You don't love that walrus commercial?
The Geico,
I think
Walrus.
I don't watch commercials. Like
No
I just tune
sleepies,
myself
Wally.
out. Just tune out any type of commercial.
All right. Any other order of business that you guys want to bring out before we get out of here?
I have a little bit of a rant.
Okay. I'm curious.
Did you happen to catch the story about? This is non-political. Did you catch the story about the kid that had the sign
Iowa?
at game day.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
Iowa.
yeah. The Des Moines Register.
I think we should cancel the Des Moines Register. I think people should cancel their subscriptions.
They
Stop
are.
giving
They're
them
supposed
money.
to be.
Good.
That's what they've said.
I think it's ridiculous that a guy that raised $1 million is being shit on for something he quoted off of a television show.
Is
when
that
he
what
was
it was?
16. Yeah, it was off Tosh.0.
Oh wow!
I think it's ridiculous.
I didn't realize
and
where
the guy
it came
and the
from.
little dweeb that reported
is
it.
hiding now.
He should get his ass
Well,
whooped.
He locked his account
He did.
because they doxed him, basically.
Yeah, I hope he loses his job. I hope he has a miserable life the rest of his.
Well,
life.
if the Des Moines Register standards are to report that in that story, then I would think that their standards would
They have
equate
to
to
fire, they have to
firing
fire
the
guy.
reporter. Yeah.
What he said, what the reporter said, was worse than anything.
Yeah.
The Corey kid said.
Some of it was homophobic. Some of it was racist.
Just ridiculous.
He had all boxes checked when they looked at his tweets.
I think it's absolutely ridiculous.
That's crazy. I mean, I thought you were going to bring up the story that came out today about the Ukrainian midget.
No, I
that
just don't care.
Posed as a baby.
I just don't care about anything on the political side of the world.
Did you hear what I said?
Ukrainian midget.
Ukrainian midget that posed as a baby that got adopted and
I might be
ended up being a
interested in that.
22-year-old woman. Probably
That sounds like something in
probably someone that cleans Josh's house.
Linda's daughter, long lost daughter, Ukrainian daughter.
It was a weird moment. Linda's daughter was here yesterday, and I don't know why she wasn't in school. It was very concerning.
Probably got kicked out.
Maybe
Not vaccinated.
Maybe there was an ice check.
Holy hell.
Speaking of ice check, South Park starts tonight. Looks pretty good.
Really?
I haven't watched South Park in a couple years, but I
This
will
new
make
season
an appointment
week,
watching
isn't
tonight. It should be pretty good. Looks like Cartman has called the ice on the Pavlovskis.
About time.
Which is just right up my alley.
Oh my God, that's too good. All right, well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Unofficial 40. Don't forget, Eskridge Lexus post-game show coming up. It's back this weekend.
And it's going to be
after
early.
The Texas Tech. It will be early. You'll be able to get it Saturday night at some point, probably when you're really, really drunk, or Sunday morning if you're good people and just want to wake up and have coffee. So it'll all be there for you. But the Eskridge Lexus post-game podcast, make sure you subscribe to that on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, whatever. And always make sure you subscribe to the Unofficial 40 on iTunes. Rate, review, all that good stuff. Appreciate everybody that sends a good word out on iTunes for us as well. And thanks to MidFirst Bank. Make sure you go to midfirst.com/U40. Sign up as they are the official provider of the OU credit card. Get that 0% 12-month financing on the card special going on right now through the Unofficial 40 podcast. So thanks for listening, and we'll be back again next week right here on the Unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com.